By the early 1960s, John Wayne had reached his mid-50s. Most well-paid, high-profile leading actors in Hollywood by this age were looking ahead and longing for a much-needed and well-deserved retirement. They would live off the foresight, planning, and investing of their far-sighted business managers. Not John Wayne, though. He was still methodically cranking out 3 movies a year. Why was this? Because he, unlike many of his peers, was continually in desperate need of money. This was just one of the several headaches and heartaches that he was coping with at this time in his life, and they collectively were taking a toll on him. Though his films were described as having only limited artistic achievement, he had been rewarded with Hollywood film immortality. He had been paid up to $600,000 for a single film. His 161 movies had grossed $350 million. He had made others wealthy, but he had difficulty doing that for himself. In 1962, he was barely making ends meet. He claimed that his millions had mysteriously disappeared in the night. He realized and admitted that after 25 years, he was starting over again. The truth was that he and his business manager were involved in too many unfortunate money-losing deals. His very own film-producing company, Batjack Productions, had produced only one film in its 8 years of existence, and that was The Alamo. He had invested $1.2 million of his own money in the film. Many of his friends had also invested in the movie. With a budget close to $12 million for the picture, the movie would need to have grossed $18 million to show a real profit. During Wayne's lifetime, that figure was never even remotely approached. He also invested $500,000 in a shrimping operation in Panama. Initially, he controlled 70% of the business that rapidly went away. He also put money into a whiskey importing company, apartment houses, hotels, taxi franchises, and oil wells. Wayne would say that he had hoped that his frantic filmmaking pace would eventually solve his money woes. By the early 1960s, he was dealing with, but not seriously addressing, a number of health issues. He would take his annual checkup at Scripps Clinic in Southern California. He would seem to always come out in an acceptable shape, despite the pounding that this business was doing on him. He was a 5-pack-a-day smoker, and he consumed a daunting amount of alcohol. Yet at the same time, he stayed away from habitual drunkenness. In moments of outburst of anger, he would risk flare-ups from ulcers that had troubled him earlier in life. Now, if all these things weren't enough, the addition of 2 divorces had placed so much on his mind that insomnia was brought on. There were 2 areas that really boiled John Wayne. The first was the direction that television westerns were headed. He felt like that television had a tendency to reach a little. In their westerns, they were getting away from the simplicity and the fact that those men were fighting the elements and the rawness of nature. The topic, though, that really threatened to flare up his ulcers was politics, and the Kennedy administration specifically. In 1970, Frank Sinatra had sought out screenwriter Albert Maltz to write a screenplay. Maltz was labeled as one of the unfriendly 10, or the Hollywood 10, because he had refused to answer questions before the House Un-American Activities Committee about his Communist Party membership. He, along with 9 others, were blacklisted by Hollywood studio executives. Reporters called on Wayne for his opinion on Sinatra's action. Wayne responded, "I don't think my opinion is too important. Why don't you ask Sinatra's cronies? They're going to run the country for the next few years." His dig at Kennedy quickly found its way into the printed page. It created so much heat that Sinatra had to fire Maltz and began looking elsewhere for his screenplay to be written. Soon afterwards, at a Hollywood benefit, Frank stormed off the stage when Wayne came to the microphone to speak. Later, when Wayne asked why he had walked away from him, Frank responded to him, "You blasted your mouth off." Wayne responded back, "You mean about the malts thing?" Sinatra said yes. Wayne then said, "You want to talk about it?" Sinatra told him, "Some other time." This was just one of many similar incidents that was so typical of the conservative John Wayne. For his fervent words and activities towards anti-communism, he was elected to 2 terms as the president of the Motion Picture Alliance for Preservation of American Ideals. This organization gave names to the House Un-American Activities Committee of all suspected Hollywood Reds. Some really nasty stories were written about him. He continued to be, however, unashamed to express what and how he felt. He eventually became so sensitive about the printed word that he began to insist on approving every line that was written about him before granting an interview. Now, with all this in mind, weighing heavily on John Wayne, he took a gut punch when 3 of his closest friends died over a short period of time. Wayne thought he could get past all this other stuff just with hard work and a few minor adjustments in his lifestyle. But the death of these 3 close friends triggered even a deeper uneasiness and pain in his life. Actor Ward Bond had been an intimate friend for 30-plus years, and he and Wayne had played football together at Southern Cal in the 1920s. They and their entire USC football team appeared in the 1929 film Salute. It starred George O'Brien and was directed by John Ford. During the filming of the movie, Wayne, Bond, and Ford became more than acquainted. They became close friends. Bond and Wayne both appeared in many of Ford-directed films. In all, Bond starred in 23 films with John Wayne, most notably Fort Apache, The Quiet Man, The Searchers, and Rio Bravo. Once together on a hunting trip near Hemet, California, Wayne borrowed Bond's shotgun and accidentally blasted him in the back. Doctors ended up extracting 60 shots from Bond's backside. Legend has it that Wayne commented on the incident and said, "Sure, I shot him. How else was I going to tell what pattern the shells were making?" At the height of his television career as Trailmaster Major Seth Adams in Wagon Train, Bond suffered a massive heart attack when he and his wife were in Dallas making appearances for the conservative side of government. He was pronounced dead at a local hospital on November 5th, 1961, at the age of 57. His close friend John Wayne made all the arrangements for his funeral, and he also gave the eulogy. Bond's will left to Wayne the very shotgun with which he had once been accidentally shot by his friend. With rapidly failing health, actor Grant Withers, at the age of 54, committed suicide by overdosing on barbiturates on March 27, 1959. His friendships with both John Ford and John Wayne landed him spots in 9 of Wayne's movies, including Fort Apache and Rio Grande. Wayne was best man at Withers' 5th marriage, where he was married to Cuban-born actress Esteleta Rodriguez in January of 1953 in Reno, Nevada. Rodriguez would later star with Wayne in Rio Bravo in 1959. Both families lived close to each other in the San Fernando Valley. John Wayne's longtime press agent, Bev Barnett, died of a heart attack on February 14, 1960. He was just 47 years old. Upon hearing the news of his passing, Wayne exclaimed, "Oh God, this is a tough one." Among the pallbearers at his funeral were Wayne and Gene Autry. Bev Barnett was the publicist for many big names in Hollywood, including John Wayne, Gene Autry, Dick Powell, Jack Benny, Johnny Cash, Robert Mitchum, and Johnny Weissmuller. Each of them realized that they owed much of their fame and fortune to his amazing skill at promoting their individual God-given talents. John Wayne appeared to have been human. He made some rather bad choices. He made some unfortunate mistakes. He was ostracized. He experienced suffering and loss. He bled, hurt, and wept, just like we all do. But through it all, he was our quintessential American cowboy, our hero, strong, tall, brave, and seemingly always with the right words. He was all-American. Yes, he was the incredible John Wayne. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll continue to chase the classics.